Welcome to the Franchise Woman Podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships forged. I'm Rebecca Monet, CEO and Chief Scientist at Zoracle Profiles. Along with Lisa Welko, an award-winning franchise consultant and career transition specialist with Integrity Franchise Group, who has generously offered anyway, to co-host while Tracy Cow is caught up in the whirlwind called life. These next few weeks, we're going to be focusing on the many ways franchising gives back and makes a difference. And that is why we asked our special guest today, Amanda Palm, to be with us. So those of you that don't know Amanda Palm need to know Amanda. Amanda has been involved in franchising for more than 15 years. She joined Sports Clips Haircuts in 2016. And with almost 1,900 locations nationwide, she oversees Sports Clips, brand communications, public relation efforts, as well as his Haircuts with Heart philanthropic programs, which include the VFW Sports Clips Help a Hero Scholarship Program, the largest veteran scholarship of its kind, Dream Flights Organization, St. Baldrick's Foundation, and the American Red Cross. She's also going to talk, I hope, Amanda, about everything you did with Focus Brand and Schlotzsky's and all of their philanthropic events. So, Amanda, thank you so much for kicking off this series with us. We really appreciate you making time for us.
Absolutely. I'm super excited to be here with you ladies.
We are too. We are too.
Amanda, you are just a rock star. So my first question I always have to ask when someone's been around franchising this long is like, when did you wake up and dream that men's haircuts were your future?
Oh, every day.
When did that happen?
Every day.
Every day.
I think my career path probably followed a lot of the, paths that a lot of people do who end up in franchising. I don't know that I ever woke up and said, oh yeah, I want to be in the franchise world, but I was very lucky that after spending some time working for the Texas Veterans Commission, where I was a marketing manager there, I had an opportunity to join the Focus Brands organization and came on board there working for Schlotzsky's, which is a national sandwich chain. And at the time, Focus also owned Carvel ice cream and Cinnabon, which I'm sure we are all familiar with, those big yummy cinnamon rolls, and managed the PR and the communications for those brands. And, very quickly kind of realized, hey, I kind of like this franchising gig. It's different and it's interesting, but it's fun and challenging. And it's a way for me working for the franchisor to help all of these franchisees build their own businesses and create a strong livelihood for themselves and their families, while also giving back as the franchisor and the franchisees on the local level. So I really liked it. And, I enjoyed my time with Schlotzsky's and made a lot of, great career and personal and brand, goals and accomplishments there. But realized that they were probably looking to move to Atlanta, and this Texas girl wasn't quite ready to make her way to Atlanta. And so was really fortunate to end up at Sport Clips and was hired here almost 7 years ago, back in 2016, and came on board as the communications manager and now director of communications, and have kind of grown my role and grown my work and grown my opportunities and the good things that we're doing here too. So franchising is definitely, like I said, it's unique and challenging, but it's so rewarding on so many different levels.
Oh, I totally agree.
You have a job, a communications director sounds like, communications, 1,900 franchisees that I'm communicating, making sure everyone's on the same page and rowing in the same direction. So nice job.
Thanks. Yeah, 1,900 stores. It's a big system, but it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you. Amanda, how do you communicate and connect with? I mean, that's like overwhelming to me. How do you do that with 1,900 franchisees spread all over the world?
So it's challenging. So of our 1,900 stores, we actually have around 500 individual franchise owners, franchisees, but then we also have 1,900 store managers, and we also have 15,000 stylists working in our stores around the country. And we have area managers, and we have regional directors, and we have area developers. And so our system is vast. And communicating can be really challenging sometimes, especially anybody who works in franchising will tell you communication is key, but it's also probably one of the most challenging things you can face as a franchisor, especially getting your messaging from the franchisor level all the way down into the store level, or all the way down to those team members, whether it's a store or a sandwich shop or a bakery or a massage, whatever, getting all the way down to that team member. So we have weekly communications that I send out every Wednesday. We have monthly webinars for our entire system. We have breaking news communication. So if there's something that's escalated or something that's urgent that we need to make sure that our system needs to know about, we have quarterly meetings, both in person and virtual across the system. We have a national huddle where we all get together in person once a year and communicate that way. So there's a lot of different touch points that I use on a regular basis to make sure our messaging is getting out.
That's awesome. I hope that people listening, and especially young franchisors out there listening, are seeing that communication start. And like you said, it's not just corporate to franchisee, but it's corporate all the way through the process to make sure that the message is clear and concise. Because sometimes it can get lost on those owners, right? And especially when owners start owning 10, 15, 20 stores, you need to be responsible enough to understand the deeper that we dig in this culture and get everyone going. So I think that that's going to be an important lesson. I know that's not the theme of this one, but I'm like, new franchisees.
Yeah, it certainly is. And yeah, it certainly is. And everybody receives information differently, right? Some people prefer a bullet point. Some people want a full article. Some people prefer getting something in video. And you try to make sure that you're providing information to everyone in the way they like to get that information. But I've said by the time I'm sick of talking about it, they're finally paying attention to what I'm saying.
I love that.
And I love that.
Yeah.
That's a title of a book, Amanda.
Maybe I'll write it one day.
You should, give us a forward, give Lisa and I a forward. So, but I think you're absolutely right. It doesn't always fall on ears that are able to listen. These are folks head down running their businesses. Right. And what's important to them, what's important to corporate, can take a while for those things to kind of line up. So it does require different forms of communications and connections and repeated communications and connections. You seem to have a passion for this communication side of you. How far back does that go? Because you were telling us offline a little bit about your dream to become the next Terry Bradshaw in New York City. So has this always been a passion to be a communicator?
I think so. Even thinking back, even to like my pre-college days, like my mom gave me my first journal when I was 9 years old. And I can remember, writing in it every single night and documenting my life as a fourth grader. Very, very riveting stuff. But I kept journals my whole life, and then made my way through. And, I was always the kid who would much rather write a 10-page paper than do a math problem. I mean, my skill set just always fit along my skill set just leaned toward the communication way and into writing. And so made my way to Texas A&M after graduating high school in Austin or Maine or Texas, and graduated from A&M with a journalism and a speech communication degree, and thought, like you said, I was going to, ultimately make my way to New York City and be the next Carrie Bradshaw and write for magazines and publish a book one day and live that glamorous life. I did move to New York City. I lived in Queens. I spent a year trucking from Queens into Manhattan working, and I loved it. But I realized that I would rather live in Texas and miss New York than live in New York and miss Texas, and made my way back home and ended up working for the Texas Veterans Commission, where I was a marketing manager. And then the common theme then throughout my career has really been communications in some form. And communications has always been consistent, but what has changed is having to adjust for either the company that I was working for or the audience that I was communicating to. But the communications thread has been there from way back.
And I think that's your secret weapon, right? So you must sit down and think, okay, who am I talking to in this? And what are we talking about? Because communications director, you also have a big responsibility to all of Sports Clips is known for their charitable and philanthropic endeavors. So you're communicating that, but you've also, I'm sure, have very corporate stoic type stuff that needs to get out there. I mean, you survived and helped Sports Clip survive the pandemic. That communication had to be just intense.
It was brutal. Yeah.
So, I think that knowing who you're communicating and what the message is and able to separate that's secret sauce stuff.
It is.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, definitely knowing how to adjust for not only your different audiences, but your different topics, right? What can be lighthearted, what can be fun, what needs to be a little bit more serious and focus on the business side of things. And knowing how and when to make those adjustments is key for sure.
Those are really good tips. And they're going to go in your book that we've already entitled for you. So, because you're right, I never thought about some communications can be lighthearted, funny, humorous. Others are more somber, more serious. Some are more detailed or tactical kinds of communications. And to be able to recognize what is best based on the situation, based on the individuals that are going to receive that communication. I'm not sure I've ever even thought about that.
Right. Well, then you add on another layer of complication too, and anybody in franchising will know this. As the franchisor, there are certain things you can and cannot say to your franchise system based on your franchise agreement or your FDD. So those are other pieces that come into play when you're communicating out to your system as well.
Wow. This is like a science. I had no idea. This is brilliant. So, Amanda, I wonder if we could shift gears a little bit. Part of your role is to deal with some of these philanthropic efforts that Sport Clips is behind. Can you share with us what some of those are? That would be very helpful for me.
Absolutely. So on a national level, we have 4 official philanthropic partnerships. We actually have a campaign going on right now for the month of September with the American Red Cross. We've been doing it annually for quite a few years. Essentially, anyone who goes to donate blood during the month of September with the American Red Cross gets a free haircut from Sport Clips. Pretty easy promotion, pretty simple. This actually grew out of the North Carolina market. We had an area developer there who is a lifelong blood donor. And it was something that he's very passionate about. And he came to us and said, hey, I've been doing this in my market, but I really think this is something that Sport Clips could do on a national level. And we said, absolutely, that makes perfect sense. And so it's a really simple thing that we do to thank our blood donors for donating blood. Another partnership we have is with St. Baldrick's Foundation. So St. Baldrick's Foundation is an organization that raises funds for childhood cancer research. So they don't actually do the research themselves. They raise all this money and then they distribute grants to a St. Jude or to a research hospital or to an individual scientist or doctor who's doing research specific to childhood cancer. Because what St. Baldrick's has found and what researchers have found is that children need different types of treatments than adults. And so it's very important that the way their cancers are treated and diagnosed and the entire process is not the same that we're doing on an adult. And so the primary way that they raise funds is through head shaving events. So it was kind of a no-brainer that Sport Clips would be the stylists who would show up at these events and we would get to be the ones who would shave these heads. And so the way they would raise funds is people would commit to raising dollars, ask their friends and families to make a donation, and then they'd go to a head shaving event and they would go bald. And our stylists are the ones who get to go to those events and shave these heads. And it's really powerful. It's really incredible. And it's a great way for our stylists to get out of the 4 walls of our stores and go to these events and be an active participant in this philanthropic partnership. It's not just about raising money. It's not just a free haircut in the store. They're really getting to go. They're meeting these people. They're meeting these families of these children who are going through treatment, and they're getting to be a part of it, which is really important for us. So we have been a national sponsor with St. Baldrick since 2016. And we've committed over $2.2 million to them so far on a national fundraising level. And we've supported thousands of head shave events around the country. So that's one that's really special to us. Our third one is Dream Flights. So Dream Flights is an organization that is veteran focused. It was started by a man, his name is Daryl Fisher, and he grew up a pilot. His father was a pilot, long line of aviators in his family, but they owned senior living facilities. That was their business. And one day he and his dad were just like, there has to be a connection here. And his dad happened to own a Stearman biplane, which is one of those old, if you've ever seen a crop duster or some of the old movies, the open cockpit with the two wings on it, that's a biplane. So these Stearman biplanes were actually used in World War II as training planes for pilots. And the reason they were used is because they were the hardest plane to learn to fly. So they would put these brand new pilots in these Stearmans. And if they could learn to fly the Stearman, they would then make their way up to an easier plane. Daryl came up with this idea to start partnering with senior living facilities around the country and offering dream flights to veterans living in these senior living facilities. So they go around and offer these flight opportunities, and we, as a sponsor, get to send our stylists and our team leaders and our folks out to volunteer to be there to help out for these days of flights. I've been very lucky to go to quite a handful of these flights. I don't think there's
I'm
telling you, I guess I have two favorite programs because this one is so incredible. I haven't made it through a single one where I haven't gotten teary-eyed, just because it is incredible to watch the change in these veterans. We have seen veterans who have been wheelchair bound, who we've gotten into a plane and taken up and gotten back. We have seen veterans who have been almost nonverbal, who have come back. They go up for their flight, they hit the ground, and they can't stop talking about it, and they talk about it nonstop. It's pretty incredible. Often we get family members there as well who get to experience this with these veterans. And again, this is something that our stylists and our franchisees are getting to go out and see firsthand and be a part of. And I think across the system, it's probably one of their favorite things to do as well. And then finally, we have our Help a Hero scholarship program. So that is by far our biggest program. It is an in-store fundraiser every year. We created it in partnership with the Veterans of Foreign Wars in 2013. We had previously been doing a partnership with them where we were paying for free phone calls home. We were essentially buying calling cards and covering those calls home from service members who were stationed overseas. This was back in like 2006, 2007. As technology improved, the need for those calling cards kind of became non-existent, but we still wanted to support veterans. And so in working with the VFW, we determined that a scholarship program would be really beneficial, because oftentimes GI Bill benefits run out, TIA benefits run out, other student support that many veterans get from the government and from other programs doesn't cover their entire educational career. So this scholarship program steps in to help cover those costs when they've exhausted those other benefits. And so this is a program that we have run, like I said, since 2013. We have awarded 2,372 scholarships totaling $11.4 million.
Wow.
And we raise all the funds in store. We have a campaign coming up October 9th through November 12th, where we will be collecting funds from our clients. We have a $1.7 million goal this year, and typically about 80% of our funds come directly from our clients in store.
Wow.
So those are the four big ones. There's a whole bunch of other small ones, and we have tons of amazing franchisees who do stuff on a local level and in their markets, and we encourage them to do it. But those are easily the four national programs that we manage as a brand through Sport Clips.
I love that, Amanda. I love that. I know I've said it a million times, but I love that you dig deeper than just the ownership. You know, you're getting those stylists out there so they can get behind it. I mean, that's culture through and through. You must have a founder that is just that it has to be a really strong leader in order to keep that level of giving back at the level that you guys are giving back. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. Gordon Logan is our founder and chairman. He started Sport Clips in 1993. He is an Air Force veteran. He is a life member of the Veterans of Foreign Wars. He flew C-130s during the Vietnam War era. He was never in country during Vietnam, but he did serve during that era. And he sets the example for us. He is very passionate about supporting veterans, obviously having served himself. But he walks the walk when it comes to supporting these organizations. And it's a very, from the first moment a stylist joins the company, or from the first moment a franchisee is considering Sport Clips as a brand, early on in our discovery day processes, it's something we talk about. And it's very clear that the expectation is that, if you're joining this brand in any level, you're gonna have a part in this philanthropic outreach.
That's awesome. Well, thank you. And thank you, Gordon.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
thank you, Gordon, for spearheading this. There's a warm fuzzy that comes with making a difference. And like you said, these programs, not only are the franchisees involved, but the stylists are involved, the managers are involved, the people that are coming getting their hair cut involved, the families of people getting their hair buzzed off in the Baldrick. This is like, it just spreads. It's just got this ripple effect in the community. And as an organization, that must feel good. As our franchisees, it must make them feel good. Now, I got a really silly question, and maybe it's just obvious and I'm not seeing it. But you were talking about the St. Baldrick's Foundation, Baldrick's. Is that purposeful, that name?
It is. There is not a St. Baldrick, but it is something that they came up with in creating that organization. One of the very first fundraisers was over 20 years ago. It was this group of guys in New York City that shaved their heads, and that's kind of where this organization came from in that name. Now they do use the tie of the saint. March is typically their biggest fundraising month when they have events and they tie stuff into St. Patrick's Day. So there is a little bit of a connection there just because of the name, but yes, the Baldrick is intentional for sure.
Yeah. So St. Baldrick.
Yes,
I love it. I
Yeah.
just love it. So you mentioned you have a couple of favorites, and I think that's always true, that when we are involved in things, it's because we have our own passion behind it. And it really seems both with Focus Brand, Schlotsky's, all of those, you were heavily involved in various things, and the Texas Veterans Commission, even today, the veterans programs that, Sport Clips is behind. So what is it that has your heart be so attached to veterans? Do you have family members that are veterans? What's the story there?
I do. I'm not a veteran. I've never served, and I'm actually first generation American on my dad's side. So my dad is an immigrant from Germany, and my Oma and Opa, my grandparents, are no longer with us, but I certainly remember hearing stories from them and from my dad now of my dad growing up in Germany, and my Opa actually worked for the USO for a time. So even though he was in Germany and very German through and through, he was working for the USO and then ultimately ended up working for the American government. So there was always this tie to the United States, even though they were in Germany. And that is ultimately how they were able to immigrate to the States and come to Texas, is through my Opa having worked for the US government. And I certainly remember hearing stories about my Opa and my Oma and my Opa's brothers having to flee their hometown as World War II was escalating and Hitler was coming into power. So I have kind of a unique perspective of, I guess, World War II in particular, and the benefits of having a connection to the United States during that time, and then ultimately afterwards, because they ultimately came to the States in the 60s, and the benefits that, my German family got from getting to come to the US. And then on my mom's side, my papa, my grandfather, was a Marine, and he has 5 or 6 siblings. I always forget the exact count. There's a whole bunch of them. All of my great uncles, they were all deployed to the Korean War at the same time. They all were in the service. They all chose to join the service. And they were on the front page of the Austin American Statesman, the Kaiser family boys, all being, shipped out on the same day. So that connection to the military is very strong on my mom's side. And, I think people my age, and especially people younger, I think we take for granted the sacrifice that these service members, who, especially those who are willingly making that choice. We're not talking about people who are being drafted. We're not talking about selective service. We're talking about people who graduate from high school or wherever in their path, make the conscious decision to join our military and give their life to that service. And I think it's very noble. I think it is something, like I said, I think we take for granted. And I think it's something that should be recognized and rewarded in any way we can. And I've been lucky in that, working for the Veterans Commission years ago, and then now working at Sport Clips as a veteran-owned company, I'm in a position where I get to give back to that group of people directly.
Your Oma and Opa would be very proud, girl.
Thanks. I think so.
Yeah. So tell us, actually, Lisa was mentioning this offsite a minute ago. What's the percentage of veterans that are involved with sports clubs?
When you count it up by store ownership, we're at just over 10% veteran owned.
And that's awesome. And you guys have, you're part of the vet friend program.
We are.
Have a vet friend discount. And I think, again, newer franchisors are usually who I'm speaking with. And I think that's a wonderful first step into being involved in that. I mean, IFA does a great job. And then, to bring in veteran owners is so smart, for one thing, on the part of the franchisor. So that's just a wonderful thing. But it also, to give them a discount in their franchise fees to allow them that path to the self is giving back as well, and growing your system the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. And Gordon has been very vocal. He's written articles, and he's been a longtime supporter and member of VetFran, made contributions to VetFran. But he will be the first one to say that, very often veteran franchisees make the most successful franchisees. And it's because coming from the military, they know how to follow a system.
Yeah.
They are comfortable and prefer to follow a system. And most of the time, you are joining a franchise because of their system, because of the systems and the processes that they already have in place. So if you're already comfortable there in that space, and the importance and the value of following that system, and you can transition those skills and that mindset from the military into franchise ownership, your likelihood of success is going to be very, very high.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So thank you.
So true. Yeah, it's amazing to see how well veterans do in franchising. And those of you listening in, consider franchising, consider Sports Clips, with such a commitment to veterans, and of course also to your franchisees. So let me ask you a question, Amanda. Not every franchise system has as big of a commitment to philanthropic programs as you do. What are the benefits of a franchisor doing this? I want to talk some of our franchise leaders into getting more involved in charitable situations and making a difference. What are the benefits to our franchisees and our franchisors in doing so?
So, I'll always tie it back to Gordon's example. When he founded the company, he borrowed some tenets from Lou Holtz, famous football coach, probably most famous for being at Notre Dame. And so we kind of live by the values of do your best, do what's right, and treat others the way they want to be treated. And that's the expectation and the example that's set for us as at the franchise level. I think the benefit for franchisors in giving back is twofold. One, it shows your franchisees that you are interested in more than just the bottom line, and that you believe in giving back, that you believe that it's important to make those actions to give back to the community. But I think then on the next level, it's showing your clients, right? Your clientele, that you're a company that is taking a role in giving back. Because I think we've seen a shift in both from employees and in consumers, and we hear and we're told that consumers want to purchase from brands that think bigger, that from brands that are giving back, from brands that are active in philanthropy. So showing that you are doing that is incredibly important, both to your consumers, but also internally. But I think the key is picking the right programs. And that's really where, if you're not an organization that is currently giving back or currently involved in philanthropy, but you're thinking it's something that you want to do, you have to have buy-in. You have to have buy-in from your franchisees. You have to have buy-in from your team members at the local level, at the store level, especially if you're going to do something in store that they're going to need to execute. It needs to be something that they believe in, that they feel proud of, that they can feel a part of. And then you need to have buy-in from your customer base. It needs to be something that makes sense for your customer base too. And if you can find that partnership, that organization, that group, and you get all of those things to align, you're set up for success right there.
I think it's smart too that it's hard to be a business owner. I don't care how great the systems are, how there's going to be days, right? And so it helps you get out of your own head and your own minutia and think, okay, let's think bigger here. Let's take myself out of the central role and put someone else there. And, givers always get back. It just happens. And so to take them out of all of that minutia and give everyone a bigger purpose. And it's so smart. I think new franchisors too need to listen to the fact, get everybody at least behind one big organization. They can all have their own individual stuff. I was a franchisor a million years ago, and for ours, it was a kickboxing gym, right? So ours was Victory Over Violence, and we had a kickboxing event, right? But it helped the membership, everyone kind of with this common purpose. And it really does help the owners because they're pulled in so many directions. It's very nice to just give them, this is what we're going to do.
Right.
This is the path we're going to take. And it's another system for them to follow. And it gives them that comfort and that security. So, you're doing it on a level that is just amazing. And I applaud you because it's harder with 1,900 than 300 than 30. So
it is. It's certainly a challenge. And that then ties back to that communications piece, right? So you want to make sure that, there's clarity about exactly what we're doing and why we're doing it. Yeah. And I think those are two important pieces, and it makes sense for us, right? The veterans tie-in makes sense for us as a brand because of who Gordon is and us being a veteran founded company, and knowing that we've got stylists around the country who are either veterans themselves or are veteran spouses. And then the tie-in to St. Baldrick's makes sense for us too, because it's an opportunity for our stylists to get out and use their skills, that what they're trained to do, which is cut hair and shave heads, at their fundraising events. And even the Red Cross, while it may not seem like a direct connection, because that one grew out of a specific market in our store or in our system in North Carolina, it made sense for us there because we already had buy-in in a huge chunk of the system.
This is great advice for any franchisor, any franchisee. These are important matters, but you do want to be selective what programs you choose to participate in. So we're actually closing up our time. I want to make sure that we give contact information for you, Amanda, and also if someone is interested in sports clips, how they might learn more. How would they do that?
So our website, super easy place to go, www.onesportclips.com. So sportclips.com. All our information is there about our charitable programs, our franchise opportunities, careers, etc. And I'm easily available. My information is on the website. You can also hit me up via email. My email is amanda.palm@sportclips.com. Love to talk to people about philanthropy and communications and franchising and veterans and all that good stuff.
Love it. Lisa, any final thoughts from you?
I think just thank you. Thank you for leading by example. Thank you for, you're an empire brand. You are the 1%er that all these other franchise organizations look to at IFA and places like that to emulate. And so by leading with such a strong giving back example, hopefully that's going to permeate into the entire industry because we need it. So
absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that really hit me here, along with everything Lisa said, is that this is communicated from day one. It is part of the culture. It's part of the recruitment. It's part of the selection process of franchisees, that this is who we are at Sport Clips. We want you to be a fit. And if you're in alignment with these values and how we express those values, including through our charitable organizations, then you're likely going to be a good fit. So it's from early on, you're communicating that, and then all the way down to the consumer level, you're communicating who you are at Sports Clips. That's commendable, and that job falls on your shoulders largely and your team. So I'm impressed with you, girl. I'm impressed. I can't wait to see your book come out.
Yes. I'll put some credits in there to you ladies for
sure.
Yeah,
we want the forward, we want credits, we want whatever. So thank you for being here. And thank you for those of you listening in today to the Franchise Woman podcast, where passion and purpose collide. We'll see you next week for another episode.